Stone tools show how humans survived a supervolcanic eruption 74,000 years ago. Of all the volcanic eruptions to shake our planet in the last 2 million years, the Toba supereruption in Sumatra, Indonesia was one of the most colossal, but it may not have been the global catastrophe we once thought it was. The massive eruption happened roughly 74,000 years ago, spewing roughly 1,000 times as much rock as the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. For a while there, some thought the fallout was so extreme it triggered a decade-long volcanic winter and a millennia-long glacial period. This so-called Toba catastrophe theory left the global human population with just a few thousand survivors, except that's probably an exaggeration. In recent times, archaeological evidence in Asia and Africa has suggested that while the eruption was indeed tremendous, the consequences were not so apocalyptic after all, and it certainly did not leave humans on the brink of extinction. Now an ancient and unchanging stone tool industry uncovered at Daba in northern India suggests instead that humans have been present in the Middle Sun Valley for roughly 80,000 years, both before and after the Toba eruption. Populations at Daba were using stone tools that were similar to the toolkits being used by Homo sapiens in Africa at the same time, explained archaeologist Chris Clarkson from the University of Queensland in Australia. He says the fact that these toolkits did not disappear at the time of the Toba supereruption or change dramatically soon after indicates that human populations survived the so-called catastrophe and continue to create tools to modify their environments. The Toba catastrophe theory centers around a correlation and a controversial one at that. At about the same time as the Toba volcano was blowing, all of those millennia ago, our species was also going through a genetic bottleneck. The eruption seemed like a plausible cause for this drop in diversity. But over the years, the catastrophe theory was not held up to scientific scrutiny. In 2007, evidence of stone tools in southern India suggested the Toba eruption did not lead to extreme cooling nor trigger a glacial period. Some have pushed back and argued that these tools were not made by Homo sapiens, but whoever they were sculpted and appeared to survive this natural disaster. In 2018, further fossil evidence from South Africa added evidence more support to the idea that global human population not only made it through the Toba eruption, they might have even thrived in its wake. Geneticists agree that 70,000 years ago, there was an unmistakable drop in human genetic diversity, but that shift may not have been the result of a supereruption. Some think it might simply be a founder effect. As humans spread across Eurasia and branched off into smaller and smaller groups, their genetic diversity may have also begun to dwindle. And that's problematic, probably why genetic diversity in Africa is so much higher than elsewhere. The thousands of newly described stone tools found in Daba have helped fill in some of that timeline. The results suggest humans migrated out of Africa and expanded across Eurasia much earlier than expected, surviving a brutal natural disaster in the meantime. The study authors say most of the tools found in Daba resemble African and Arabian techniques from the Stone Age, and some even look like early human artifacts from Australia. The team claims these are unmistakably human-made, connecting the dots of early migration from Africa to Southeast Asia and then on the Great Southland. Modern human dispersal out of Africa, and more importantly east of Arabia, must therefore have taken place before 65,000 years ago, the authors write. The Daba locality serves as an important bridge, linking regions with similar archaeology to the east and west. But without human fossils to back up the find, there are some who remain unconvinced these tools were made by Homo sapiens. This particular stone tool technique was also employed by Neanderthals. Anthropologist Stanley Ambrose told Science magazine he thinks it's impossible to tell which species actually made these tools. If the dates are right, however, it does not really matter who sculpted the tools, whether created by Homo sapiens or other ancient hominins. Whatever populations did reside in Daba were not nearly wiped out by the Toba eruption. Although something else probably ended them, the people who lived here have not contributed much to the modern gene pool, which means they probably faced other challenges to their ongoing survival. The archaeological record demonstrates that although humans sometimes show a remarkable level of resilience to challenges, it's also clear that people did not necessarily always prosper over the long term, says anthropologist Michael Petraglia of the Max Planck Institute. They may not necessarily always prosper over the long term. And it just was not the volcano that got them. It wasn't just a volcano. The study was published at Nature Communications, and this is on Science Alert by Carla Casella. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.